Hey everybody, welcome to today's TWI Talks. We're going to be discussing chapter 9.70 and the epilogue, as well as the general volume 9 and what we thought of it and whether or not Pirate's a good writer or a terrible person. We'll go through all of it. Today's discussion is going to be a little bit more structured on the front end. We have about 5 or 6 topics we're going to try and cover very quickly. We'll give you a good idea of what it is, and everybody will get a chance to speak up if they want to contribute. Y'all know how this works. I hope you enjoy yourselves. So we're going to get started right away with the first topic. It's going to be best and worst moment from the 9.70 and the epilogue. We want something short and sweet about what was your most impactful moment, what felt best to you, what was the best thing, what was the worst thing. Keep it short and sweet. It's a lightning round. You have to quickly tell us your highlights from 9.70 and the epilogue, either from your emotional or from a quality perspective, whatever you want to do. Jokes are welcome. Long responses are discouraged. We do not need like 40 discussions. So everybody get started posting whatever you want to do. Remember to ping us if you want to speak. You can put it in the document. You can put it in audio chat recorded. You're good to go. In the meantime, we're going to start off with Kylera. What was your best and worst moment?
I knew you were going to do that. Okay, yeah. I really loved how Embrame died. I mean, it's unfortunate he's dead, but it was awesome. I loved that whole scene with the, there was never a more glorious Antinium than I. It was fantastic. The flip side for me, not because it was bad, but because I was disappointed, was honestly Lionette's new class. I was a little bit sad that she's a princess of the inn, because I've been really hoping she would go back to Callanfer in the near future. I kind of thought that's where we were headed, until Aaron, ended up elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, she's stuck in the inn for a while now.
Responses, Kylera. Short. You are not doing the thing. Okay, Ed, you're up.
Yes, quick responses. Best thing and even the most shocking thing, Aaron killing Vincent, just blew my mind. Never thought that one of the deaths would be from Aaron. And the worst thing, the most shocking thing, for the worst thing was the death of Alter Steel, the Earl of Rain. Sad. That's a 9 on the sad scale.
That's a sad one. All right, We're going to do very quickly. We're going to go through and Wovu, you're up. Mr. Wiggles, then Alias. So Wovu, you're up. Wovu, can you unmute yourself? You can speak. We're going to have to come back to you. Mr. Wiggles?
Well, I really enjoyed a couple things. I really enjoyed the entire chapter overall, but a couple things are I love the Embrame's moment. I also love the Armored Queen talking about Embrame.
Mr. Wiggles, pick one.
No, I'm doing like 10. Okay, I really love the end of the chapter. And the one thing I didn't like is probably the Reinhardt section in First Landing. It wasn't as emotional for me. So yeah.
Okay.
Everything else loved it.
Okay. Mr. Europe, you're up. I'm sorry, Kylera. Sorry, Alias, and then Mr. Europe. Sorry,
Mr. Europe. We'll get to you. My favorite part was every moment with Vafia. They're the best new fail girl, Jewel 2.0. And my least favorite part, even though I've said in the past that this series is not about the levels, it's about, the characters and the story and stuff, I was really disappointed at the end that we didn't get to see the witch and the innkeeper and the dancer level ups, just because it had been so long and we'd been building up to that, and now we've got a month, and that would have... Seeing those new skills would have given us more to think about and talk about in this coming month. And I'm
going to say this again. Short answers. I've got to get through a lot of people, guys.
That was it. I'm done.
Okay. All right. Wovu, you're up.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. For me, the Blighted Kingdom Earthers getting their asses kicked was great. I loved it. That's just been a thread that's been there for a long time that I wanted to see dealt with, and now we're starting to see it dealt with. The worst part was probably Aaron in the epilogue talking to the Grand Design. I thought that kind of sucked. It felt like the world was bending over backwards to please Aaron. I didn't like it at all, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. All right. Mystical Pie says the best moment is Aaron reaching out to Great F when she held her hand out and saved him from drowning. The worst moment is Aaron arguing with the system about her level 50 skills. Wow. Second person who says that. Kikanolo, you're up.
My favorite moment was the horn sections at the end. I kind of felt that those made me really look forward to Volume 10 and what will happen with them there. And my worst moment was, actually it was originally going to be the epilogue thing, but now I changed my mind to what someone else said about the Lionette thing, because I really don't like what's been done with her this volume, but I'll get into that later.
Okay. Mr. Europe, you're up, and Mario's, you're on deck.
Me? Or
yes, Mr. Europe, you're up. Mr. Europe?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Oh, we can't hear you. I think there's something with your mic. What's up? Yeah, we can't hear you. Your thing's lighting up, but you can't be heard. I'm going to let you fix your mic. Mario's, go ahead.
My favorite moment was the whole story with the Captain and his son. Pretty much you see the contrast with what Erin is doing for Rabbit Eater, and it's pretty much like a parallel story of how like two strong wills fighting for what they want to for the future. Anyway, that's pretty much what I liked about that. And the worst, I don't know what's the worst. I enjoy a lot of it.
So there's no worst for you. That's great. Quill says Leonette. What? Go ahead.
Sorry, Europe is ready.
Yeah, I saw. Quill said Leonette is 100% going to class switch when Aaron gets back. Well, that's something to know. Mr. Europe, you're up, and then Sir Bear. Nope, can't hear you.
Mr. Europe.
Just type it out for now, and then fix your mic. Okay, he had to. He's fixing it. Sir Bear, you're up.
Okay, my favorite moment is more of a feeling. It's Erin fighting. It's always fun to see her fight because people keep decimating her, and it's great. My worst moment, it has been said, it's the system Erin conversation, both of them. But we're going to talk about that later, I assume.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. Okay, Relia says best is Zolaire fangirling over the horns or Aaron unaliving her fellow Earthers. Worst is every scene where blood tears try to justify themselves. Not bad writing, just very frustrating to read. Okay. Quillman says best is system talking to Aaron on 7.90. Apparently, in 7.90, not in the epilogue. Worst is all of Blood Tier. Absolutely no emotional connection to them. Gotcha. Okay, Josh, and then Mr. Courier. Courier. Yeah.
All right, am I audible?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yay! So, best moment. I know this is contradictory, but I like it that the goddess Corwin, she finally went to the Sarient Lamb. I don't know. That just gave me finally they're being recognized by the wrong person, but they're being recognized. That was the best moment. The worst moment is when Maxie, Admiral Maxie, comes back with the implication that Altestiel has died. Somewhere I hope he's not dead. Maybe he's become a drowned person. But there we go.
Okay. Donkey says... Courier first, and then we'll do Donkey. Go ahead.
Aaron's got a magic box. And guess what's inside it?
A dick.
Toasty.
We all know... What? It's a dick in a box! It's gotta be!
Let him finish. Courier.
I can't believe you would just, spoil my joke with your own answer. Come on, man. You didn't even let it cook. I was supposed to lead off and trail off and go with someone else. It was meant to be a short joke.
Okay, sorry. Donkey goes, best. I find it very interesting how GDI-chan is becoming more active and involved. He even answered a prayer. I never know how to pronounce his name. Rosex I am very interested in seeing where this will go in the future. The worst is not that bad, but I feel like some sections were a bit vague, like Ert's death and the Aura Clash scene. Is Mr. Europe back?
We want to hear you, Mr. Europe.
I don't see him. Is he back?
No.
Too bad.
Oh no.
If
Okay.
he pops back in,
Well, yeah, we'll give him a shot.
it.
Okay. Clay, you're up.
Cool. Yeah, my best part was it's actually someone else's worst part, was the system rattling off the numbers to Aaron. Both when it was, the system being like, how many are like you? Many. How many are you? One. And then also, the system just jump scaring her with exactly how many people have visited Laracel's Inn. I thought that was really funny.
That was funny.
And the worst part is not that bad, but I'm not a fan of Tyrandria in general. It's just kind of feels bland to me, except for the Rabbit Eater versus Iridoran plot. I thought that was really good.
Okay. Bleach Soul, you're up. And then we'll close it out with Word Wizard and a few other people who are typing.
Yes, my favorite moment is Eren killing the prince. My worst moment, well, I have like two. Altestiel getting off-screened, and the pirates stealing Destiny. I don't like that at all.
Yeah, a lot of people had a tough time with that. Mr. Europe, you're back. Can you be speaking? Nope.
No. All right, type it out. We'll read
Just type it out so we can get your comment in while you work out. I'm so sorry,
Okay.
Mr. Europe. Guy Gear says best is Rabbit's reaction to Eren going the distance to making the good goblin survive. I know I shouldn't say this. Who heard the Hercules song "Go the Distance"? Because I heard that.
Yes, indeed.
The worst from Geiger is the global nuking stuff on Eren. Okay. Drake Lowe says best is probably Greybeard wanting to see if she'll take his hand and her biting the bullet and doing it. And worst is definitely all the mains dying. All right.
Did we get Weird Wizard?
What? Did I get? Who did I miss?
Did we get Weird Wizard?
Yeah. Oh, no, Mr. Weird Wizard. Did you want to speak, or were you just typing that stuff out for us?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I really liked the horns from the enemy's perspective because they were all super intimidating that way when we know they're just like these goofy screw-ups most of the time. And I really was upset that Gershel died. I mean, it seems like it's going to be this impetuous for a bunch of stuff, but it really hurt that he died.
Yeah. And now we finally get to hear Mr. Europe. My favorite was Eren talking to the system. Worst was Bethel and Flying Queen not being killed. I'm with you. So I'll round it up. We're going to cut off here. You guys, look to the next topic, because that will be more of a discussion. And take a check-in, read it out. It's Pirates and the Fate skills. So my last bit, my personal best and worst moment. Best moment was when Syria was like on the waves, like fully on the waves as the ice skating ice squirrel. And my worst moment was when Eldavin survived. That fucking cockroach.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'll read out what Kyler is typing right now. You can add questions to the doc relating to fate skills, impressions on the choices the pirates made, on why this may be significant, how it changes things going forward, as possibilities for the cast. Also, keep in mind, this is the first experience we've had with like serious fate skills, like the manipulation of destinies, predestined moments, what's possible in the system, and how it might relate to things. And I added this last bit. If everybody remembers, there is one character who explicitly is supposed to manipulate chance and fate, Rickle. And we have not seen that motherfucker in a little bit. So wonder what that's going to all turn out.
All right. Which one do we want to start with? We've got
No,
4.
you're handling this. This is your part now. I'm gonna get something to drink.
Okay. Hey. All right. It's mine. All right. Let's pick one of these. So people are still kind of editing. Some of these are straight speculation. So let's see. All right, Mr. Europe. Okay, this was a hot topic on. I'm going to twist this one a little bit. This was kind of. I remember this being a very big topic when the chapter first dropped in chat. About. So, Mr. Europe's question is pirate morality. If a horrible murder is committed on the sea, but the victim is a Tarandrian noble, is it still morally bad? I kind of want to spin this one a little bit, Mr. Europe, because I remember people really discussing like the questions that this specific situation brings up, where they're all going after nobles. Do they actually have better fates? Why do they have better fates? Is this something that is a good thing? Is this something that's a bad thing? It opens up a large can of worms, and it seemed to really get people talking. So anything related to that, let's talk about. Mr. Europe, this is your question, so if you want to talk about it, you have dibs.
Is my voice coming through at all?
Yes.
Yes, finally.
So yeah, my main question was that I just wanted to make a if a tree falls in the forest joke, but that's why I phrased it that way. But the main thing about it was that the just the how justified they are in it, in that they're essentially have checked the Tarandrians' privilege and are deciding to steal it for themselves, to like their lot in life. And the Tarandrians are, in general, pretty shitty. So just how much of a horrible thing is it really, and how does the whole fate thing, like, is it justified, and is it, yeah, all of that.
Okay.
Personally, I think that it was very funny in the chapter that there were several hints, like where it's kind of stopped and said, yeah, but they do suck. Like all these horrible things happening to them. Like, yeah, but they are terrible. Like, I mean, fuck them, right? But aside from that, yes, it's terrible. It's terrible. All these horrible pirates. But yeah, fuck them. And I thought that was very funny, and I do kind of agree with it.
All right. Mr. Wiggles, go ahead.
So on whether or not, they actually have better fate, I don't think that matters as much to me. I think it matters more viewing it from how the pirates view it. And to them, they very definitely would see, all these people born rich, all these people born into power, and see, okay, yes, all those people absolutely have better fates than me. It really doesn't matter if that's actually true. It matters more how the pirates perceive that. And in the pirates' eyes, I don't see any way that they would think, okay, yeah, those guys have a worse fate than me in general terms. It's also kind of interesting to think because fate is such a nebulous concept that honestly it's hard to tell exactly who would have the better fate. Is someone who's born rich, born with a ton of power, automatically having a better fate than someone else? I that has to contribute somewhat, but it's hard to it's not even hard. It's impossible to know just based off of that. But for the pirates, it seems like a no-brainer that yes, these people have better fates than them.
Interesting.
Okay.
Want me to read some stuff while you organize the who gets to talk?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Please edit that out. Oh, I think broccoli went down the wrong place. Sorry. Hi, so Wovu says, in answer to the question, while waiting for an answer, the pirate will stab you in the face and steal your stuff. pirates do not give a damn about morality or justification. They are blood tier pirates. I bring up what Wovu said first because I had a talk with one of the people here, Kel, and we were trying to work out like the justification or how things are forming for the pirates, and there was like a chasm. It felt like a little bit in terms of interpretation. I took it from the point of view of the pirates and trying to like formulate what was it that made them tick, what made them tick. And honestly, the results and the end result of the choices was so abhorrent that for a lot of folks, it felt like it didn't matter why they did it. They did it, and it was terrible. So who cares why they did it? And the intentions do not matter. Only the results matter, right? That was something that kind of devalues a lot of the depth that Pirate was trying to bring to it. And I think the next person's comment also is important to keep in mind. Quillman says, Fate skills are fine. The problem is that there were absolutely no build-up to them. Only Siphon Luck has been shown best as a spell. Blood Tier had zero build-up. Definitely could have used some more. The Leveless Child could have used something, which is important to note because I think part of the reason why we can't find empathy or connection is because there wasn't time to build any empathy or connection. How do you get there if there's no way to get there first? Quillman rounded out his comment saying, as Sylvinia says, they're just going to waste it all on further murder. That's true. Even that comment, Kylera, what did you say about that?
Yeah, that felt a little on the nose to me. Because when I read 9.70, okay, there's a couple things. I guessed a few weeks before that this was going to have something to do with stealing fate. Like, I don't remember what it was, but I was pretty sure that that's where it was going to go when the pirates caught up. And that is what happened. So I don't remember why I thought that, but I've made a couple comments in chat. And it's pretty obvious it's going to backfire, right? Nobody gets, there's always something in exchange. In-world does balance a lot of things out. And when they go and they do all these terrible things and they steal people's fates, there's going to be a catch. So either the fates suck because, the person you stole it from just died a terrible death. Maybe that's the catch. Or the catch is that, yeah, you have a new skill, you get to start over, but you're the same person. Probably the smarter pirates was the one that, gave it to his kid or rolled the dice completely and said, I'll just basically reincarnate. Because none of these people are going to change. You have a perfect rogue running around. That was part of the chapter. It's he's going to use it. He's not a pirate, but he's going to use it for nefarious deeds. What else is he going to do?
I'll read Clay's out. Does Bleach Soul can speak, and then you want to split up. You talk in Aurelia's voice, and I'll do the responses to Aurelia.
Sure.
Okay. So Clay said, Clay had a mic. Clay, do you want to speak?
Yeah, sure. I don't mind.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm of two minds on that. On one hand, the pirates are just kind of furthering their own problem, where they're oh, I was born in this bad situation, so now I'm going to go kill these people for the situation that they were born in. They're reversing the discrimination against themselves, which just feels kind of weird. But then on the other hand, Action Kermit actually mentioned this too. They're stopping colonizers kind of on accident who are coming for this land that was created for a certain people who haven't even gotten to it yet. Which I'm kind of surprised the story hasn't gotten to directly talk about yet. Yeah.
Colonization as a theme?
Or more specifically, how this land was made by the Gnolls for the Gnolls.
I mean, there's been head fake, when people mention it, ironic jokes about the fact that, the gnolls are having to like give up a
Right.
land that was specifically made for them, and the whole, forgive me for this, the whole like in tribal groups having their land stolen by other like Eurocentric folks.
Yeah.
Alright. Go ahead.
Oh no, it's good.
Okay. All right, let's catch up on comments. We want to squeeze one more question in, then we got to scram to the next section. All right, Kikanolo is a +1 to the 0 build-up to any of the fate stuff, which was a massive part of the Volume 9 climax. So yeah, maybe it wasn't obvious enough. Nobody says, fuck the pirates, they be scum. Donkey writes, the pirates did not kill the nobles for anything specific the nobles had done. They killed the nobles and many warriors for entirely selfish reasons, so I say it's morally bad. Whether the deaths of the nobles will have a positive or negative impact on the world is a different question, in my own opinion. Yeah.
Bleach Soul, you want to speak?
Yes, I really hated that they have like this destiny type of skills. I don't get how the ghost pirates can foresee what kind of skills they will get by killing the nobles and stuff. It's like they have like this kind of system chant kind of power, like they can hey, go and kill them and you'll get these kind of abilities. It's quite ridiculous. I don't like it at all, like not one bit. I can understand like killing others will allow them to rob others from the future and thus stealing their destiny, but I hate it. I just hate it. It's just not well done, to be honest.
I mean, we always pirate started to introduce like these vague skills and abilities a time ago. We had it all started with the white gnolls who like manipulate fate or luck. Then we got introduced to the fate game, the fair playing, and now we have another fate type ability. So it's not coming from nowhere that these abilities exist. I think there is precedence for that.
All right, let me just see. I got to organize these comments a little bit. All right. Here we go. Geiger says, to me, morality says killing people to steal their stuff is bad/evil. Obviously, we have very little context to how good or bad the nobles are. A lot of the nobles we've met at the inn are main characters, flawed but likable. For the most part, we're told the Tarandrian nobles are bad, but from what we've seen, many are fine, normal people, so I'm very much against the whole murdering from that side. Action Kermit says, the Tarandrians were sailing for the express purpose of stealing the Knoll's land, so it was a battle between two groups of thieves, to be honest. The nobility just had better PR and logistics. Yeah, fair. Sir Bear says, the thing is, there's two types of blood tier pirate. The idealist ones, like the Luminary and the Knoll, that just want a better life or a good life. The brutal ones, like Shipbreaker and Maxie, mostly want to kill people. When the first group kills nobles, it's somewhat good, while the second one is just bad because violence breeds violence. Okay, let's do the Relia section. Oshi, you ready?
Yep.
Alright, Relia writes, the fate skills are probably mostly stealing classes, which sounds effective, but even though noble classes confer some legitimacy in world, the world still has a whole societal structure that prevents randos from jumping social classes in a way similar to our planet. So, like, if a random jerk pirate stumbles onto Chandrar and claims, oh, I'm a lord now, so y'all obey me and give me free stuff, I reckon the local ruler would just be like, lol, lamo, and just unalive them on the spot. Smiley face.
Drakelow responded saying, I don't agree at all. Look at the Unseen Empire. He claimed he was an emperor and became one. And Yash says, I think there was some buildup the entire time. This was in response to Quill. Sorry, not the other one. This is, yeah, that's something else. In response to Quill's comment about fate skills, Yash says, I think there was some buildup the entire time. The sprites kept saying they couldn't see fates after the solstice. I kind of figured it had something to do with the pirates. So when the fate skills were revealed, it made sense. And Raylia, in response to Dracelo, says that was a special circumstance which led Lacan to victory. A, he spawned in the nobility starved north of Israel. B, he was charismatic, like ostensibly a normal guy when he started out, not some morally dubious pirate. C, he had 0 intercontinental bounties out for his head. I want to, you know what? Let me just read through the last lightning, because there's only a couple of comments, and then I'm going to say something, and we'll close it out if that's okay, Kylera.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Quillman says, no one's land currently, referring to the new lands. Doesn't matter who raised it. Nulls need to get good. Clay said, I just figured we'd have heard the Nulls comments on it by now. Either more friends, we don't build buildings anyway, or IO, what else? What the fuck? Look, there was literally comments. Anyway, I'm not going to get into it. Mr. Wiggle says they didn't kill the nobles and then get the skills. They got the skills before killing the nobles. Kainia says, I kept hoping while reading that there was some kind of comparison of the fate ceiling with Erin, which could be said to have changed the fate of almost everyone she met just by interacting with them. Nobody said this was a chapter about gotcha addicts going to town. I want to point something out to everybody as far as the skills go. It wasn't random in the nature of what happens when certain there was a specific pirate who wanted a second life, a second chance, and the system granted him that. And there was one pirate who wanted a better life for his son, his adoptive son, so that was what was delivered. It wasn't just they picked the fate and they just got it. That's not how it worked out. So Halis, your mic is open and you're echoing me. So Halis, thank you. So what I'm trying to get at is it wasn't random. It was guided by whatever preset. We know the writer wrote it out, but if I'm speculating that the system itself was changing, reflecting whatever, like balancing it out as it happened. Some people got skills the way you can from Rochal by like putting people in jars and distilling their skills out so you can eat them, and some people got literal second chances at an entire life. How that was determined is pretty like important to note. We don't know what the determination was, and I would have liked more of an understanding of it. And I think that is one point that was weak about it. I don't know how Pirate could have fit it in narratively. Probably couldn't. And then that's about the only weakness that I saw. Sir Bear did have one thing. You had something to say, and then we're done?
We're done. I think we'll move to the next section. I have a segue question lined up.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I just want to speak fast about how everybody got their own skill. It's a thing frequently in TWI. You don't get the skill are adapted to you. Erin is not going to get a carnage violent skill with blood everywhere. That doesn't fit her. Skill always try to fit you and somewhere in what you do, what you think, what you want. Like what happened at the end of Volume 6, where Erin wishes for 2 particular things, and she got them as the garden and the fire skill. And then there's also Covine that gave the skill to everyone, so everyone Covine could have adapted the skill for everybody and said, okay, you want that, you get that. You want that, you get that. And
there was a lot of like ambiguity to just how the skills were given out and how this is like the system's still directly involved in it. Hawaiian at the moment, I believe, was still semi-locked out. I'm not sure how it all works, and that ambiguity is making it very difficult for us to frame like what is it like. They're some of them are treating it like loot bags being killed and getting stuff out of it, and some of them are being treated the way you would want true redemption to go, like the cost of it being blood, but there it is.
Because it fit their personality, what they wanted, and all of that.
And it's very ambiguous. Okay, it was Alias, just for clarity's sake, it was revealed in the epilogue that the ghost was Kawan. Read that section again. Okay, so Kylera just posted something. Do you want to lead in? Yeah.
All right, so I think that this is something that everybody really wants to talk about. Who's handing out skills? How are they being handed out? What's changing with the grand design? Same as with classes. So that's the question that I'm picking from section 2. It seems as though, so here's the question. It seems as though the grand design has given up trying to define a perfect class for Erin and has instead let Erin define what the wandering innkeeper is herself. How do you feel about this new and apparently unique freedom, and do you think the grand design will allow others to follow suit as well? And Edoron, I want to give you first crack at this if you want it.
I can do that. Most people said that they don't like that the grand design, like the world bent back over to please Erin, and I think I honestly think it's quite the opposite. I like it because it's the whole point of the grand design getting more and more involved. It was built up more and more. It's the whole point that Erin is that the whole world is not bending to fit Erin, but Erin is bending it's backwards. Erin is bending the whole world to fit her own viewpoint. She thinks shit. She thinks stuff should be like this, and she just does it. And I think it's I like it that we got confirmation that the stuff she's doing for volumes and volumes is actually working. She is bending the system with just her will and her actions, and I like it.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, Clay said that.
Can I interject? While I want to get at least like 5 or 6 more responses in, so before we do this, let me interject with my thing, if you don't mind, Kylera.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I was the one who wrote out this section because I wanted to actually discuss something else. We might get to it later at the open discussion or thing, but when it comes to this particular topic, there was a lot of folks in the early section with the best and worst moments who were like, the worst moment was Pirate writing about Erin and the GDI arguing over, not even arguing, just having an exchange over what her class will be. That activity kind of seems to have sapped something from folks, whether it divided the community a little bit. And I say this, I'm stating this out because it wasn't, I'm of the same division. Like, I reflected that division pretty well. I enjoyed the fact that the GDI was more alive here in these last 2 chapters, more like aware of the individuality of each person. And I enjoyed the end result of all this, which was the GDI acknowledging that in order to be fair, it cannot treat everyone as a one-size-fits-all. It can't just number them and say, you're the 999th warrior, the 246th artificer, or whatever the hell classification system that existed before that the gods came up with, because that's what you use for play pieces, for toys. That's not how you are fair, as it kept saying that in order to be fair, it had to change, is that it couldn't be fair to people unless it individualized and really reflected who that person was. Who Erin was not being properly reflected. And I think that moment when it understood that every single person deserves this moment, whether it comes at level 3 or level 100 or whatever in their journey, it should be balanced on who they are. It shouldn't be balanced on the scope of what people were before. whatever classification or number or anything else. As I'm going to quote something, I am not a number. For anybody who knows that show from the 60s and 70s, the British show with the prisoner, people are not numbers. And this is the GDI acknowledging that moment. In that moment, that people are not numbers. It can't keep going the way it has been and be fair. And every time the GDI has changed how its behavior, adapted itself, it's always been because at its core, it's decided that being fair is important. And it matters that you are fair.
I'm sorry. Your point exactly. I'm just thinking. I'm listening, but I'm trying to understand
point is
your
that
point.
I think that this entire like exchange isn't so much about Eren as it is about the system.
All right.
I think people are focusing a lot on, oh, Eren forced the system. No, Eren didn't really force the system to do anything. From the beginning of the volume, we knew that the system, its memory was made up of the souls that came before, and the gods ate the souls, and then it was left with no instructions, no idea what to do, and it panicked, created the quest system, and then its sort of cascade reaction, having to constantly change itself and figure out what it wanted, figure out what it stood for. The chapter where it decided that when it spoke to the little kid who was being targeted by Casigna, it decided that being fair and being balanced was important to it, that it was on each person's side because that's what it wants to be. It defined itself. And then in this chapter, it took the step forward from that when it actively engaged with Eren to try to figure out how this new definition can be applied in this new world, in this new paradigm it's setting up for itself, where it's a lot more active. And it decided that being fair requires it to treat people, as complexities, and not as singular numbers or data points. And that, I think, is what the point of the conversation was. And a lot of folks framed it around the idea of Eren bullying the system rather than the system continuing its gradual journey to wherever the hell it's going. And yeah, that was my point. Sorry. I wasn't
Right.
clear.
That's okay. This is a pivot point for sure. All right,
Yeah.
Mr. Wiggles.
Okay, so I'll try and be quick about this. Over the course of this entire volume, starting with the quest system change last volume, we've gotten system points of view. You know, we've seen it several times, but every single time we've seen it, every single time it's been changing. It's been trying to make itself more, more proactive. Basically, it's been changing based on the data it's being given by the people in the story, and I kind of feel like this entire volume has been being built up towards this one moment of the system finally looking and interacting with people more closely. Like it's already unlocked synergy skills, it's already unlocked quests, it's starting to do all these unlocks, and all of a sudden it still is trying more and more to understand people because of what the change it's gone through at the end of volume 8 with the ghosts dying. It's constantly been pushing forward to this point that we're at right now. And I kind of feel like it's odd that I've seen so many comments that say, oh no, the system should have just forced Eren to get a warrior class. Like, the entire basis of this volume has been the system evolving. It's been it changing. And I see comment after comment that says, no, the system should have just forced Eren to do something that Eren has refused to do for multiple volumes now. It's like that doesn't make any sense to me. To me,
Thank you.
this
You're correct.
and I really enjoyed these scenes. I did. I really enjoyed these scenes because they've been built up for me. So yeah, I really like this, and I feel it's good. I love that the system is like changing to try and fit people more and more. And I hope next volume we get to see it even more and more. like, well, not like constantly. I shouldn't say that. I hope we see other characters getting to interact with it at the same time. But yeah, those are my thoughts.
All right. I love it, and I'm just going to keep going because we got a lot to catch up on. Love Woo.
All right, so the things I disliked about this section were two-part. So first off, the discussion itself was a big part of the problem for me. If the grand design had an internal monologue where it was like coming up with its own answer to Aaron's situation, it probably would have been fine, but Aaron actually saying, no, that's not right, you have to do it again. No, that's not right, you have to do it again. That was part of the problem for me. It makes it feel like Aaron's bullying the system into doing what she wants it to do. I think that the system changing from generalized classes to more personalized classes is great, but it needs to be more presented that the system is doing the changes itself, not that someone else is pushing these changes onto it. And a second part of the problem for me is that when it comes to Erin personally, her actions and desires aren't really matching up. I kind of think this is reflected in Erin and Lionette. You see someone like Lionette who wants to be a princess but keeps on acting as the innkeeper for the Wandering Inn. She's like the head innkeeper, more or less. So her downgrade from worldly princess to princess of the inn kind of makes sense. But then Erin isn't acting like an innkeeper. She's been a combatant for a long time, and so if she's going to keep on being a combatant and acting like a combatant, she shouldn't get the innkeeper class, which is a non-combatant class. And I know that people are going to say, oh, well, Erin as an innkeeper is a combatant, but that just doesn't make sense within the context of the world, so it just doesn't match up. And so yeah, that's why I didn't like it. I'm actually really excited for the idea of being the system changing. I just think that Erin being the head of the change is a bad thing.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah.
Because that's exactly the point. I think it's my opinion. It's exactly what I also said the whole time, and Pirate acknowledged that with the discussion with the ghosts. The system has itself said you don't behave like an innkeeper, and Aaron basically said, I don't give a fuck. I am an innkeeper, but I also fight. I also do this, but I still want to be an innkeeper. And I think there we are again with the point that one person is so stubborn that she can like bend the world to her will. I think that's totally fine. That's her whole thing, in my opinion. When
Okay.
one person can do that.
But my thing is, that's main character syndrome right there. Like, that's literally the world literally bending for the main character. And that just feels unsatisfying. I think it could have been done better.
And that's not it. The character is bending the world. There's a difference. If one, she is, the system said it herself, she is the first who behaves like this. She's the first Aaron Solstice. And this main character syndrome that you're talking about, I think that's the point. There is always somebody who bends the world. There is always a first who is doing this.
All right, and we have a couple comments that kind of follow the same vein. Donkey says it's not unique. Anyone who gets far enough will need something new made for them. Grand Design Chan said so themselves. Aaron discussing with it is unique, though. And Clay responds to that and says, I agree. Aaron repeatedly says she's nothing special. Aaron bending the grand design narratively leads to the grand design doing the same for everyone in the future. And Kikanolo, you have a comment.
Yeah, so what I wanted to say was that, I mean, I think it's completely reasonable for a person to get a custom-built class, especially at that stage when she's done so much. But the part, again, I didn't like was that it was a back and forth, and not just a simple back and forth of this is what I want and this is what you get, but an extended back and forth of get this, reject this, get this, reject this, get this, reject this. And I think that sets a dangerous precedent for the story moving forward. So, I mean, I'm completely on board with, okay, her wanting to stay an innkeeper. The grand design, the system has always respected wanting to stay what you want to stay. And getting a custom class and custom skills, perfectly on board. But the part I didn't like was the back and forth and the precedent it sets, especially its extended nature, right? If it was a simple back and forth of, especially as someone said, an internal monologue in the system, or just some simple back and forth, one round of back and forth. But 4 rounds of back and forth or more where there's rejecting everything, and then that was too far, too much, yeah.
Okay, Alias? Still there? Sorry, I know it's been a while.
Oh, I was muted. Sorry. Haha, I started talking and I forgot. I agree with most of what Oshi said, except the bit about I don't think the system is actually trying to achieve fairness so much, quite as what it thinks people deserve. But I feel like the system has said multiple times that like there are some things that are unfair, and like that's okay, but it's trying to better give people like what they deserve. And as far as this whole back and forth thing and people being, not liking the precedent of that, the way I see it is previously we had like basically the first system patch with Chess and Earther XP getting adjusted. To me, it's like the system is kind of like the gnomes did that thing where the system started saving decisions and starting to realize that things needed to be different. And then it did a patch on some XP that it realized was wrong. And now it's hit this point where it's kind of realizing that it needs to do more, and it still doesn't understand people enough to fully realize what it thinks needs to happen. So Aaron is kind of like not even the beta test. Aaron's like the alpha, and so it needed like some feedback, trying to feel out, a completely different kind of being to itself, and what those beings actually need from it. And I felt like that's why there was that back and forth that the system was actually willing to engage in. Is it's wrestling with an entirely different entity to itself that has needs and expectations and wants that it like sees the effect of from the outside, and can like mathematically predict and extrapolate based on prior data, but doesn't really understand what those feelings actually feel like. And so it's trying to reach for that, and that's why it interacted a little more closely, like in this example, as it tries to kind of become a more whole entity.
Right. Yeah. Quilly agrees with that. He wrote, "The system isn't being bent by Aaron. Emmerhain broke it in the end of Volume 8, and it is trying to fix itself while slowly breaking apart, aka it's being gnomed." Which Clay agrees with, writing that the system's hand has been forced and now it's building its own identity. It happened to pick Aaron to use as a sounding board / test user, and Clay loves the grand design struggle with fairness and what it means. Can't wait for more.
I think that's the key to this whole discussion, right? Whether or not you see Aaron as being the test subject rather than the impetus for the change, right? From my point of view, it's all Aaron is like patient zero, or is it patient zero? Yeah, we'll go with patient zero, because she's in the right place at the right time because of fate, shenanigans, whatever, to be patient zero. But Aaron is not the reason the system is trying to make all these changes. The gods, the circumstances of the world, the way it was slowly dying, and the way the gnomes left that little niggling job for it to do to save all data, all that stuff. That's, you have to make that decision whether or not you see that as the framing, or as if Aaron is just the main character pushing things forward, and everything she does is happening because it's her choices. Like, I don't know if there's a way to, like, fundamentally, it's two different tracks, it's two different interpretations of the Wandering In novel series itself. Like, do you think Aaron as the main character decides everything that happens? Or do you think, well, maybe that's a little bit reductive, but we'll go with that. Or do you think that there is more plot driven and other choices being made that create the circumstances that allow Aaron to do these, to be part of these, not even do these, to be part of these things?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing is the beginning of the end for like the box system for a lot of things. But let's see what everybody else has to say, because I'm sorry, people. I know it's been almost 20 minutes since some of you pinged us. We are working on it.
That's going to happen. I knew it was going to happen.
That's why we've cut it off. No more comments. Stop typing. Take it to audio chat.
Yeah.
Bleach Soul.
Yeah. I think I liked like how the only thing I liked about that is that the system from now on should have personalize the skills to who they are as people, instead of hey, you're acting like your class, act like your class, or get a new class. I mean, that way, like everybody will get, and that actually will remove the world from the waning world into not so waning world, because everybody will have like personalized skills, and they will have like, and the glory of the past will come back in a sort of way. Yeah, that's it.
I like that theory, and I want to take it a step further even than that, Bleach Soul. Erin was establishing that she wants to be an innkeeper, but an innkeeper who does all these global things. So that would mean somebody who wants to be a princess, but also wants to work at an inn and have a daughter and be a normal person can still be a princess, or or say somebody who wants to be an alchemist, but also does not want to deal with want to travel around and be a wagon driver. Maybe they get to be the alchemist wagon driver and all that, instead of having like long written out classes. Maybe you just are the alchemist and you get to do all these things because of synergy classes and all these things that is coming out as a tool. I like that. I love that theory. Yash, right? I think Yash is up.
No, Geiger.
Oh, Geiger. Yeah, Geiger, you're up.
Hey, thanks. So I think a big part of this is Papa playing with GDI as kind of a deity of sorts, where you have multiple concepts of omnipotence and all-knowing and all of this type of stuff. And in this way, free will and free choice is a big topic of GDI. From world patches, quest, titles, all of these things, giving powers to Mersha, seeing what she would do, which is turning death off, Council of Five, all this stuff goes back to this idea of let's have free will, let's have free choice, and let's encourage that. And then you have I've seen people argue that it's a meta-analysis character, and I really just disagree with that, because I think that the concept is it's on everyone's side because it wants everyone to be able to choose what they want to be. And in that vein, as you guys were just saying, when Erin being an innkeeper, she has a very specific definition of what an innkeeper is, which is boiled down. It is, I keep someone safe at night, I make sure they can sleep well, I give them food. And to her, she then extends this out to, I need to make a space in this world that isn't just my inn. And that's why she's going out and she's trying to defend her guests, her family, in that way.
I'm sorry. I'm giggling because Kylera did the welcome gnome joke. Okay.
I didn't.
Not Kylera, sorry, Kel. Oh my god. In the audio.
Yeah, we have lots of chats for watching.
Yeah. Yash, you're up.
All right. So I've been looking at it from, let's say, somebody who's trying to create an AI. Let's look at the system as a grander version of Torin. Now Torin realizes that he has a set of bad instructions that he does not want to follow because they're bad and they're not conducive to what his objectives are. Now, I think the waning world, this is controversial, but I think the waning world might be a result of the gnomes saving all the data. But what do large data sets do? There's something called reinforced learning, where the larger the data set that you have, the more accurately you can predict results. So the more that your data set grows, the more easily you can classify people. Um, that's what machine learning and AI does. I think that's what broke it, because if you look at Zeladona, or if you look at people, if you look at characters in the story, before the gnomes fixed it, they had amazing powers. They had unique abilities. we can almost say every class was a green class, because at that time it was personalized, because that data set did not exist. The predictability or the classification of each human happening did not happen. So it might be possible that the gnomes, in order to not empower the gods, in order to sort of break their source of power, were the ones who instructed the system to create this predictive model to classify people into rigid classes. Think of it as the caste system, right? Once you're born a Brahmin, you stay a Brahmin. You're born a Shudra, you stay a Shudra.
And
Even though the system was not meant for it.
Sorry, gosh, I was just saying it solidifies things, right? It
solidifies things.
Yeah.
So the more data you have, the more you're solidifying things. And what Erin is trying to do here is to tell it, don't refer to that data set. Because that's going to create, if the data set is biased, that bias is going to show up in your results, in your classifications, which is what she was trying to argue with this, in her argument with the system. And initially, I did not like what was happening, because initially I thought of the system as rewarding somebody's deeds with classes and skills. It was more of a reward than an entitlement. But then I realized before the data set, it was an entitlement. It was not a reward. Your classes and your abilities weren't rewards. Is that making sense?
It's even more insidious than that. The perception of the person receiving the class is that it is a reward. The actual intent is to do what you're saying, which is to solidify them into a predictable path.
Yeah.
It turns them from an unpredictable variable into a predictable variable, because
Correct.
it takes away the choices they might have taken and forces them by a reward system to, like a mouse at the cheese at the end of the maze, but now you make sure the cheese is laid out in a specific pattern rather than it just choosing what cheese it wants based on its own choices. The person being the mouse. I get what you're saying, and that's the whole point of Volume 9, is the breakdown of that pattern of behavior from the GDI, and suddenly we're looking at a whole different...
Here's where I started, having conflicts with what the gnomes did, because if the gnomes wanted to save all of this data, I think they're smart enough to know what would have happened. That the more you feed predictable behaviors, it starts enforcing those predictable behaviors into the model.
Right.
And
but
one of
Go ahead. Sorry.
And I think why they did that was to make sure that people forgot the gods. Instead of praying to the gods, or instead of, let's say, trying to vie for power away from the system and gaining faith skills and fate skills and things like that, extraordinary skills. I think because they wanted the gods not to have that power, they created this system where people were siloed into their respective classes.
I don't know if that's true. My response to that would be they were able to read the heart of the system's programming, so they would have noticed that its intent was the intent was to disrupt the siloing. It wasn't supposed to silo itself. The fact that they weren't around to see more of what happened was the point. They wanted to add some kind of flexibility point. Like, how do I say this? We saw...
create the predictive model in the first place, right? When it was perfectly ambiguous, when it was perfectly doing what it was supposed to do, which is not reward but entitle, then why did they break it?
Well, this is what I'm trying to say. They didn't break it. The intent was to have it value the ghosts, because they understood or predicted that once the gods were quote unquote dead and cut off from their power supply by the elves and their interdiction, they would need to consume the meta value of souls in order to continue to keep going, right? And if the system valued those souls, that memory, that saved data points, and it was inherently part of itself, then it would set up a pre-existing conflict between the GDI and the gods. I don't think their intent was to do what you're talking about. It was to set up it was instead to set up the conflict between the GDI and the thing. We kind of have to move on. I'm sorry. I went off on a.
That's what I wanted to say. I think we should move on.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, Sir Barry, you're the last one, and then I'm reading a few comments, and we're done. Next question.
I almost forgot what I was going to say. But one point that I want to bring on is, at some point, you become a number in a data spreadsheet. The world has been, what, 80,000 years old? Okay, even it's the first innkeeper to fight the god. But at some point, you become part of the data set because the war on God is happening. The even is not supposed to be special in a way. Even if she is unique, everyone is unique, but everyone is also just a number in some way. And the most fact I dislike this moment is when it would mean every character will need to have that discussion with the system, and some people are, as with Aaron, are in denial a bit. Like a brutal dictator may think he's the savior of the world, and he doesn't deserve that title, those kills, or whatever. And those people can be stubborn too. I doubt Aaron is the most stubborn person in the entire world.
I point at Naravia as an example of what you're talking about. Yeah.
And okay, let's just say that everybody deserves that discussion with the system. When does that discussion happen? At which level? At which age? What part of the moment of their life? Is it at level 40? Is it at level 50? Is it at level 12? We don't know. Because it's complicated, and at that point, every on a meta perspective, every reader expect now a discussion for every character for that moment.
Or at least some consideration at that level. Yeah.
We want that discussion for Marsha, which is with the system got let's say a small rival remit.
I don't know if we're gonna get that discussion for every character. I do think we will slowly see more and more green classes, and
or at least like, you know what I'm looking forward to? The moment when the system like peeks into Chaldean's head. Yeah.
Oh god.
Okay.
All right. Comments. I'm catching up on comments.
I was not finished. And at some point you create a massive skill in class. Erin has been called the Wandering Innkeeper. She got 6 level. She got, if you assume she got the pavilion into full authority, she got 4 skill. Which and only maybe one of them is related to wandering stuff.
Well, we don't know what all the skills she got.
We don't know what the skills do.
But we can assume the pavilion is stuck to her in. The box is stuck to her in.
Well, no, that's not what I mean. There's literally a line. This is something that a lot of people miss, and I missed too, and it got pointed out to me. There's a line indicating that there are a lot more skills that she got, but we just didn't get to see them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a lot.
Yeah.
Some people are unhappy with that. I've seen one theory that I really liked that was like, if Aaron visits a Furling village, they use that skill or the thing on Luon that like showed them all of his skills and classes.
Yeah.
And that would be a really cool way to do a reveal, but we'll have to see how Pirate handles that. But there are more.
There are a lot more. It said innkeeper, witch, and dancer skills, so I assume there was a lot more.
Okay, comments. I'm catching up on comments.
Yeah.
Forgetful Reader says, I also feel like the build up to the system dialogue was natural. We've had dialogue between the system and the people for a while now. It just escalated and grew. Furthermore, people have been declining skills and classes and level ups for a while now. Yes, from the beginning. Relia says the grand design section felt very genre fiction to me. Like, it's fun to see our favorite innkeeper get a bunch of cool stuff, even temporarily, but it was unsatisfying in a power creep way. There's nowhere to breathe. I don't know, it was also kind of cheesy that the class she ended up getting after months and years of speculation was a pun riff on the title.
Wait,
yeah.
Okay. I've seen this said a lot. What pun riff?
It's not. It's just that I think this was one of the markers that Pirate has always had from the beginning. Like,
I agree.
the wandering
the
innkeeper.
wandering innkeeper. What is the big? Like, she's the wandering innkeeper. She's not the one. It's I don't. I'm never gonna understand that one.
It's probably. I suspect it's one of those milestones that's been planned from the beginning.
I agree.
And so it just. But if you're viewing it from the other way around, then I get it.
Yeah.
Warrior says, I
ahead.
feel Grand Design's decision is really interesting because it has a stable jumping point before it would consider it with 50 consolidation. It can just see if Erin can actually figure it out for herself. It's not a position anyone realistically gets into, which is why it's incredible, and it would be interesting if Grand Design is more active in custom paths in the future after the 50 split. At worst, it knows a bit better. At best, it knows a bit more better. Okay, yes, I get it. We've also seen how the Grand Design breaks before it awoke with Joseph forever ago. That's something to consider. I've enjoyed it. Yes, you're talking about the coach class. Yeah.
That was a moment where it couldn't define things, so it kind of didn't know what the fuck it was doing with itself.
Right, and if it had been holding a conversation, Joseph would have just told it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we're seeing part 2 of that. I think you're correct. Donkey says, I think the power, in response to Relia on the Grand Design feeling very genre fiction, Donkey writes, I think the power is about what we've been told to expect from a level 50 capstone, so it didn't feel like bad power creep to me. Also, cheesy isn't bad. It fits Erin well. She can be very cheesy. Relia responds and says, I mean, power creep in a sense more like has an inroad with God, and look at all these cool powers Erin could have had she actually wanted it, but didn't because she's 500 IQ, actually.
What?
Yeah, we were all screaming a little bit when we saw all those classes and skills that are so much easier to understand, right? Kel wrote it below. She said, she really wishes that I just want her to get the dang ship. Yeah, that skill, a lot of those things we got teased with, is so much easier for us to understand as readers than the very long, complicated box skill. But I have faith. I've never been disappointed by any of the green skills for Erin. I'm looking forward to seeing what Pirate does with that.
Okay, I just think that if she's gonna be a wandering innkeeper, she needs some sort of magical transport.
That's what I was gonna say, but yeah, what Kel said. Edda says, I think that although it isn't directly Erin that changed the system, her actions influenced its change. She does that with almost everything she interacts with. And I think that was the whole point. Like, the system can see that people are altered by Erin, and it wants to be altered and given direction, so it went to the person who's doing the altering and changing of directions.
And that's one of the reasons. And that's one of the reasons the system used her as one of the avatars to look at. Yeah, what am I gonna do next?
And that's also a good clue to the fact that it didn't just use her; it used a bunch of people. Well, you were saying, Clara, before I interrupt you.
I'm wrapping these comments. We're moving on. Donkey writes, Erin didn't decline those skills because she was smart. She declined them because they didn't fit her, and part of the point of classes and skills is for them to fit the person who gets them. Clay.
We skipped Word Wizard.
What? Did I skip somebody? Oh, sorry.
Word Wizard says, people want Erin to break out a fight skill and smear her enemies more effectively. Which clearly isn't. Yeah.
Yeah, we've covered some of that already. Let's just... Clay writes, Erin's trying to say that being an innkeeper means keeping her true guests safe, and that sometimes includes fighting. Hence, she's an innkeeper, not a general. She was just really bad at explaining that for some reason. I thought it was fairly well laid out, but...
No, it wasn't. Erin sucks at explaining anything. Clay's right.
She She just wrote a parameter. She was just like, I'm an innkeeper. I'm doing this. No. She wrote like a parameter. She said, I'm an innkeeper. I'm doing this. Therefore, it is a thing that innkeepers do. Figure it out.
Then that's not a parameter. That's a cop-out. It's trying, instead of saying I shouldn't be defined by this a set of tasks I do, I should be defined by who I am. She says, I'm an innkeeper and I do this. So it's like, I get it. It's dumbing stuff down, but it still sounded really stupid. So Clay's right. It came out stupid.
But it sounds perfect for Erin, to be honest, because
yes,
she doesn't know herself what she wants or what she is. So of course it sounds weird.
Kylera, sorry, I got.
No, we're good. We are caught up. We have other comments. They were after my cutoff, so I'm very sorry, guys. But we are skipping to the next question.
Yes.
This third section is for the horns and the shattering of the cast. And Oshi is going to field us a question. Ones we have listed, thank you for contributing those. Those are a little bit more
like speculative. And we're going to do that later in the discussion. Yeah. Here's the thing about the horn section. So I'm going to take a little bit of context here because I'm a long-winded asshole, so bear with me here. As an arc, not as a singular set of chapters, but as a full arc, the end of Volume 9 encompassed the moments leading up to the solstice, the battle of the solstice itself, the chapter wherein Aaron was captured, and then it had to make some pretty rough choices when it came to Rochelle, and then her choice to stay and save Rabbit Eater from what she clearly thought was possibly his end. And then the actual events when it came down to it, when she saves him, and then how she declares herself and now finally makes a fucking point that, yes, she is the goblin friend. And then the end result of the epilogue. In that context, the horns felt like they were there exclusively to set up. They feel like they're in an entire other world sometimes. Because it's like the horns exist in this parallel universe where they're the main characters, which is great, by the way. And these main characters, these horn folks, went on a huge adventure, lots of struggles, came out of it, a team with 2 new members. And then they got to come to the battle and save their patron. And as soon as they did, the gang was all back together, and then immediately they got split up. And there's been a lot of repeating of that theme throughout the last, I'd say, 2 volumes, 8, 9, maybe even 7 too, where Pirate sort of throws the kitchen sink of characters at events that happen, and then smashes them all and breaks them all up almost instantaneously. Within the scope of a couple of hours, they're all scattered all over the place again. And I appreciate what Pirate is doing because it's a very anime/manga thing to do, or at least it's a Marvel-esque thing to do, where everybody teams up, does some giant event, and then splits up, and then teams up and splits up, whatever, right? But it is getting a little, I don't want to say tired, but certainly a little bit overused at this point. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, that this trope is being overused a little bit. And I guess the other big question I have is, what do you think of the idea of the horns being this parallel story to Eren, where the horns themselves are effectively if we take the horns out, there's still a really strong story happening. But the horns are given pride of place, and there's this big continuing storyline that complements Eren, where the horns are developing and growing as a natural adventuring team and growing in power. It's very lit RPG all of that is happening, but did we need the horns to be at this event wherein Eren goes and saves a bunch of people? Did we need Terriarch to immediately show up? Did we need the team and the band to get back together and then immediately break up again? Or is there a world where we focus in on just a singular set of storylines and end the volume. I think mixing and matching too many storylines a little bit at the end of the volume is detrimental. Pirate can pull it off. They pulled it off for volume 8. They certainly pulled it off for volume 7. They did it for volume 5, but I'm hoping for a very different, like, Horns development, like where they are not the end of the volume, rather they end, like, whatever their story is, they reach a plateau before the end of the volume, and then they're blended into a more stable, singular storyline at the end of the volume. To give you an example of this, let's say we made it all about Aaron at the end of volume 8. No one else, just Aaron going through each of the pieces that she did, and then that's it. And the Horns had been the only thing that happened is all of the Horn storyline happened like chapters ago, and they arrived at the battle as a surprise rather than anything else. I would have liked that more than I like the way things are now. As an overall thing, just, are the Horns being overused? Are they being used well? Do you like where the Horns are going? Do you think that the Horns are being, like, the whole shattering of the cast, being split up thing, is that good? Do you enjoy it?
Can I start with that?
Yeah, go for it.
I see what you mean. I always like the Horns the best, obviously, when they're all together, because they have a really great chemistry, and they were split apart for so long, and it didn't feel like they were together enough, and now they are split up again, and I really don't like that, because it's gonna take ages to get them all back together again. So I see what you mean. And the other point where the Horns are their own separate main character, I have a bit of a feeling you have that with many other characters in TWI, and that's because of the scope of the story. Pirate is writing so much that you can take almost every character, put their story together, and you have multiple volumes of that character as a main character.
I don't agree with that. I think the Horns are different. Because if you look back over the course of the 9 volumes, there are 2 sort of threads that have always have been consistently there. Who are the only ones who get the ending thing? Has there been anyone other than the Horns in volume 6? Like, the entirety of the volume 6 ending was the Horns.
That's true. Because they are the adventurer side of the I mean, they are main characters. That's
what I'm trying to say. If they're main characters, is it detrimental to have their ending be next to Aaron's ending, or should they be, like, separated?
Their own ending.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how do we do that?
But they are Aaron's team. They belong.
Yeah.
They belong together. And so, again, to split all of them up like again is something. It's important for the story, but personally, I love when everybody is together. But that doesn't make for maybe the most interesting of stories.
Well, hang on a second.
Okay. I was asked by a couple people to, like, formulate this into a smaller question. So what I got for you guys is the Horns exist in this universe where they feel like they're the main characters. The gang was all back together and then they got split up. This theme has been repeated throughout the last 2 volumes. Is this repetitive? Does it feel different? What do you think of the idea of the Horns being this parallel story to Aaron? Let us get caught up on one or two.
Does it feel different? Should refer to, does this time feel different?
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
So to put this short in one sentence for me, I think it didn't really feel different to last time they got all separated. I think they should have just stayed together and done their job, whatever they have to do on Shandra together from the start.
I mean, the only people that got separated were Vofia and kiffaB. So, and kiffaB was, like, we saw. I would have loved a little bit more exploration of this, but we saw that kiffaB really doesn't want to be an adventurer.
Okay,
Still separation.
Mr. Europe, in response to Oshi's initial discussion on, the horns feeling like they're in a separate world, right? I mean, the horns were in a whole other world just a couple chapters ago, which, fair.
Fair.
Geiger says, we've had 2 finales ending with, quote, the gang is back together, end quote, it's fun and nice, but I'd like a finale that isn't so dang high stakes for once. PABA uses this very well, but they tend to like to have ground shaking, breaking things happen at a finale so that it's good setup for a volume or 2 later. I don't know if they can stop if they want to push the story forwards.
Fair.
All right. We ready to let somebody respond?
Yep.
Okay, Mr. Europe, let's see if your mic works.
Yes, it does. Hopefully.
You're good.
I think that there is a big difference, especially, I think the main problem is that in Volume 8 ending, the horns were not utilized very well. And that kind of messed up the whole thing. I actually think that it's very good and thematic that the horns are there now at the end of Volume 9, that it works very well. It's just that it wasn't very necessary in Volume 8, and that's kind of messing things up because it's just happening again now when it's actually necessary for them because of the whole Rochelle thing. Yeah.
You think the problem was that they were used before, and then now we're getting the repeating pattern instead of
Exactly. I think it's great here that it's the whole Rochelle thing, the whole that they have to be there for her this time because they weren't there when she died. The whole all of that makes perfect sense. It's just the problem is that it's happening again. That's the main thing. I think that Pirate tried to bring it lessen it a bit with the only a few people can teleport over with Valatrisa, but it's still kind of.
You had the dragon show up, and then you had the unicorn show up, and then you had the Baba show up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a bit much, but I think in general, I really like that this. I really like the way it all played out in this end, in the ending of this volume. It's just that I also think that you're right in that in general, though. And the problem is that it's happening again, and it's just this thing. It makes it less unique, even though the problem is that it's not actually happening that often, since there's millions of words in between the end of each volume. But that's kind of
it's
problem
the end
because
result
of how it's structured. Yeah,
it's the end result of millions of words being written. That's the thing. It's the climax is all happening together. So I guess they sort of rub together, and I felt like sometimes the climaxes robbed each other of a little bit of their bite.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the end of, for example, Volume 6, where it's just Krellers are attacking the inn and are attacking out there, and it's kind of self-contained there. And then there's a little bit in the dungeon as well. And that was a great volume ending, but now with the scale going up, Pirate tries to up the scale on each of the volume endings as well. And I think it's hard to do that multiple times with the multiple storylines and it coming together in a satisfying way without just being a repeat of what happened last time.
Right? Exactly. And it you could. I felt like if the horns had gotten their own sort of pseudo climactic ending before we got to Aaron's end of volume stuff, and then they had just been part of Aaron's end of volume stuff, it lets it feels like it's better. It's instead of being an escalation, they're just one piece of a bigger ending. Bleach Soul?
I think it's not.
No,
You're
he
welcome.
just unmuted. I'm not sure if we can hear him or not.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna go to Kikanola until Bleach.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
There you
Yeah. Yeah, I liked that they were with Eren at the finale because they are, after all, Eren's team. I just really don't like them being separated again, especially from what Pisces said about Kissenver, that he doesn't need to be in Chandrar because he's trying to spare him the misery. I don't like it at all. Like they just been separated. They should be together. But
Thank you.
yeah, but I do really like that they were there for Eren. Like Eren has been there for them. Yeah, I think it's quite thematically appropriate that they are there, even though maybe they not make a big difference. But it's the thought that counts. That's it.
I can totally agree with just what you just said. 100%.
Excuse me.
Kikanola, you're
Yes.
up.
So what I basically think is that, I mean, I like the way that the Horns had their parallel story. I like many of the parallel stories that they have had, and their role in the story as a whole. But in terms of why this one felt repetitive, okay, well, I particularly didn't like that they were separated again, and I would very much hope that they get come together sooner into V10. But in terms of why I think it felt repetitive, it was that I felt that the climax as a whole was a repetitive climax, right? Where if we look from Volume 5 to now, we have a big battle climax, then we have a smaller scale adventurer-focused climax, then we have
Volume 7 was we had a trip to another universe.
Yeah, so
and then a random event that triggers with Eren's death, like an assault by a couple of people.
So like social event followed by a bit of exploratory element to it, and then V8 is a big convergence battle, and then V9 is a big convergence battle. So I think it's just too soon between these types of climaxes.
Oh, I see what you mean, because 8 and 9 were both convergence battles.
Yeah, 8 and 9 were both convergence climaxes, which is why it felt repetitive to have the Horns, or to have many things felt repetitive because it was the same type of climax. I don't know if I'm making that point clearly enough. But
yeah, you're saying that the structure of it was familiar and like very close to the ending of Volume 8, where
exactly,
it was
right.
around.
If we had one volume of a different type of climax, then this one I feel like it would have felt a lot less repetitive. But it's just back to back, a convergence type climax with a big battle is what led it to feel repetitive.
I don't know if I agree that it was like. I agree that it did repeat the themes, that there was like a big battle and lots of coming back together, and I definitely felt that in the Horns. I think the difference here is the last bit of it. Like pirates choosing to let the battle happen, and then after the battle have Eren be kidnapped. Like that, I think, is where Pirate was trying to diverge from the end result, because you don't remember necessarily the big solstice battle. What you remember is Pirate becoming blood god and leading everybody, and then transforming into a fucking Freyerling and floating in the ocean.
Oh well, to me, I guess the solstice battle and the ship battle, it's all just one big convergence battle.
Yeah,
even if it is two parts. But I guess one element that could be said for why it's a little different is that, or at least in Volume 8, the Horns were kind of shanghaied from wherever they were in Chandra by the carpets, and at this time at least they came via their own agency, which is nice. It's they moved with their own agency. But
it's
yes,
that agency thing that makes the difference, doesn't it? Right? Like it felt more like a lot of people had agency in this ending than Volume 8. It was more like Volume 8 was everybody was just running to something that was triggered by an impossible series of events, right?
Yeah. But overall, I want to say I like the Horns, and I think that the reason things might have felt repetitive is that it's the same style of ending as just last volume.
Okay, all right, I'm catching up on a couple comments. Clay writes, I love the Horns chapters every time. I do feel their story repeating a bit, which isn't my favorite, but overall, I always love their chapters wherever they take place in the story. This split up feels not that different from the last. I wish it did, but honestly, I love them, so I don't care too much. I might be judging this plotline too early. We will see. Geiger adds, a lot of folks weren't fans of Selim. I thought it was fine, so this is back volume 2 or 3. But I will say I love Aaron at the end because of the chemistry between characters and the interactions that come out of it. I'm worried about that in Baleros. I hope that we got some really good interactions, and I'm hopeful for that. All right, Josh?
Hi. So I'd actually been discussing this before with Sidehammer and oh my god, I forget their handle name. But anyway,
You've been discussing it before. Go on.
I mean, it was just on text. We have a separate group. Oshi, it's fine. Don't feel bad.
Just go on. You were discussing it before. What?
So, the ending I feel should have been Eren getting kidnapped. I think that would have been a great ending. Eren being taken by Roshal, and the rest should have come in the next volume, according to me. I think it was. I got tired. Like, I read it over a span of days. I didn't even read it in one sitting. But when the chapters dropped, I was tired. Like, it was long. You know, did you guys get the superhero fatigue? I think everyone got the superhero fatigue, right? That's what I'm getting through.
With the end of this volume?
Yeah.
A little bit, but I think it's mostly because there were so many deaths and so depressing. Like the pirate wrote about how their feedback from their beta group was all about like that it was too depressing, that they needed to see some hope and all that stuff or whatever they said, and that's why they held off and wrote the epilogue first. That's what made it depressing. It was just so many emotional moments of whiplash where you go like, oh my god, dead. I don't know. Oh no. Oh, I can't breathe. That part. And it just kept going for a little while.
I don't mind the deaths as much because, like, you know, it's something that we've come to expect from the story, right? Someone instrumental will always die. That's fine. It's just what I thought was the ending was not the ending, and then we had one more ending, and that was not the ending, and then we had another ending, and it just dragged on for a little too long. I feel like a good point of ending should have been Eren being taken away by the slavers, and I think the pact with the devils and everything should have come in the next volume. I think that would have been
that would have been
great way to
super amazing, right? But here's the thing. Ed, go ahead.
But we haven't. But we had so many other plot points that were built up and didn't finish. I mean, we could have ended there, but
that's okay.
Why?
It's an ending where everyone's missing, right? Sometimes you don't need a resolution.
Yeah, I mean, we could have ended with a big cliffhanger, or Pirate and is just finish the plot points they built up for Volume 9.
See, at the end of the day, we still did end up with a big cliffhanger. Eren is still on a boat. She's traveling twice.
That's not really a cliffhanger. That's the start of a new adventure.
Go ahead, Clara. You were trying to say something.
Yes, I agree that the Solstice battle felt like it could have been the climax of the volume. I think the thing with Pirate's planning, from as a reader, what it looks like to me, and just watching the Discord, is that Pirate dropped that chapter, Eren gets kidnapped by Roshal, and the whole Discord panicked. This is a web serial, right? We're all waiting for the next chapter. Often it's a day or two away, but at the end of a volume, it's a month, it's 5 weeks, it's 6 weeks. And everybody lost their minds because people were very afraid that Pirate was going to give them a whole slave arc. And that was not something a lot of people wanted to see. And in fact, it looked like people were so worried that Pirate dropped the next chapter early.
Right, they did. They did do that.
Get that conclusion to the panic that everybody was feeling. So I do think that they take into account like where they want us to be emotionally at the end of these volumes, and that emotionally to leave us at the end of the Solstice arc with Eren being kidnapped by Rochelle was probably going to be pretty devastating to the reader base.
Right.
So they had a second climax like lined up, ready to go.
And Yash, just to your point about being a really great, it is a really great ending if it was like a book series. This is in addition to what Kyler is saying, because it's a web serial, because it needs to end on a satisfying note so that the reader feels like the volume concluded properly. That's why we have like these multiple conclusion arcs, which is something that has grown as the story scope has gotten worse, because volume 6, volume 7 didn't have that kind of multiple scope endings. It did sort of, in that like the Ryoka coming back from Avalon was supposedly one ending, and then Eren dying was the surprise ending. But there was only 2. Here there's like 4, right? 5 endings. There's just a lot of endings. But that's, I think, more a consequence of like there just being so many storylines that Pirate kind of.
And here's where things get a little muddled for me as well. Now the issue that's happening with Marvel right now is there are so many characters that one, we don't care about, sure, but they have to top themselves with each phase. They have to give us a bigger battle, grander, more stakes, higher stakes. There's only a point up to which people will care, because if the stakes are that high, the person who wants to read slice of life will not care about those stakes anymore.
But that's the point of this, I think, where there's been so much death and the stakes have like so deeply altered things. Now Pirate needs to spend a volume or 2 or just literally like rebuilding the world if they even want to do a big stake worthy ending. They couldn't. They can't anymore.
Well, I expect what we're kind
because
of seeing.
We're gonna have a Rochelle ending for sure. We're gonna have a battle with Rochelle. We're gonna have the conclusion with the King of Destruction.
Because Rochelle's rebuilding, because it doesn't have like a harbor and a whole bunch of other people, and it lost a lot of Ginny and stuff. Kelt is no longer around. I mean, this is the whole point, was to like drain the big giant stuff out of the world, and they kind of sort of Paranfar, the capital of Rear, is also like fucked up. Like a lot of the big players just got knocked in the teeth, and they blew a lot of their shit. So
yes, I think we're gonna see things change for a different reason.
Okay,
Eren is kind of crossed.
Go ahead, Kyler. Are you finish up?
Yeah, I'm redirecting us. Don't worry.
Okay.
Cross that threshold, and the horns are coming with her. Like they're all so high level now that at a certain point it'll be smaller conflicts, but between high leveled people. Which is hopefully where some of this is headed. Sir Bear, you have thoughts on the horns, and also you have a list for us if you want to read that.
Sir Bear?
Is he still here? Yeah, he is.
So.
Is your mic not working?
No, he's not talking. Oh no. Say something.
Hello?
There we go.
Ah, there you are.
Okay. Okay, the list was for another subject because this discussion was about the horn. But if you want, I can read the list between the similarity between both recent ending. If someone wants.
Later.
Why don't you post the list and just go through your response to the question for now?
Okay. For the put the list there. For the Orn, I think it's important that the Orn are the main character in their own way, because we need main character that are from in-world, and the adventurer are an important group of people that travel throughout the world, so they give us a good perspective that are not non-order. But yeah, it's I think it's bad that the Orn are separated again and again. I say double again because in Volume 9 you don't realize it, but the Orn got separated in Volume 9 too. And the Crossroads, when they were put into dungeon, every Orn was isolated. Every Orn had their own somewhat small storyline, sometimes in duos, but most of the time in duo. until they group together in the end and to leave. And now the Horn are separated and somewhat duo again. Desmer and Vofia are in Barros. Colt and Pisces are in Chandra. Sarah is somewhere, but I think she will group with Evelyn soon because we need the Horn to be put in duo. I'm beginning to ask: Are they a group or an adventure, or are they isolated? Like they should support each other instead of having their own storyline where they deal with their own problem, where intimate their own threat. I hope Parrot is going to dissolve the Horn of Maoxfhan at some point if the goal is for their own to have their own storyline separated. To think that so they can go their own way, like Seborn is doing right now with the F-Seeker.
Okay.
I can totally agree with what you just said, because it's often a trope. It's normal for teams to break up, so everybody gets their individual trainings arc. It was important that everybody got their little individual training, though everybody got individual a bit stronger. Then they got back together and they are the awesome team. And to split them up again is a bit robbing the reader, I think, because how they behaved were named ranked. We finally saw the Horns after their ordeal, after their training, as a named rank fighting force, and now they are split up again, and we are robbed of finally seeing the Horns together kicking ass. And that's gone again.
And they are maybe also of that name rank classification. Because they can't be together to justify it. They're separated again and again and again.
Okay, look, guys, I'm gonna lightning round the last of the comments, and then we're gonna close the recording. We'll say bye to everybody, and we're gonna do a fuck, marry, kill just to cleanse our palates before we do the open discussion. Okay. Yash, at the end of the day, the story is called The Wandering Inn, so that means all parts of the inn, the Horns, Rel, Kill, the Goblins, the Antinium, even Nears, the inn is all of them. Pat says, I think it's fine, mostly because the Horns aren't all being split up. Kissenver and Vofia are on Valros, and everyone else will be on Chandrar, and are likely to reunite soon. Lenny says, I feel like the Horns embody the lit RPG adventure aspects of The Wandering Inn, while Aaron is more slice of life part, and I really enjoy the combat trope being active in the inn world. I'm not sure about them splitting up again, though. It kind of feels like they just got back together. The addition of Vofia and Kolth also feels a bit sudden. Wovu says, if I were to be fair, then I'd say the Horns being there is a credit to Aaron's innkeeper class. If we're going to buy into the contention that Aaron is an innkeeper that cares deeply about her guests to the point of diving into war, then having her guests care equally as much about her is emblematic of her success as an innkeeper, as she views the class. In short, the Horns being there is firmly tied to who Aaron is and where her power comes from. Geiger says it feels repetitive a bit, but I remember there's like 2 million words between Volume 8 finale and Volume 9 finale. Pava subverted our expectations with this one. However, because the solstice actually wasn't the climax of the story, it was Aaron saving Rabbit Eater, which is more condensed and focused. The battle, however, was a little overwhelming on that particular topic. So this is Sir Bear's list on the similarities between Volume 8 and Volume 9 ending. 1. Big battles between two important factions. Drakes versus Nulls, Pirates versus Torandria. Civil war inside the good guys. Plains Eye versus Mersha, Prince of Men versus Rabbit. The main subject of that civil war is a discriminated minority. The Doombearers versus the Goblins. Aaron's body is there. Saren, and Aaron in this case, and Wrecking Fools. The Horns are there somehow. Bellavere is there and quote-unquote wins. There's random other side in that battle, a bit non-related to the main conflict. Fedahep with the Seamwalkers, Dillahans with Zolaire. Both are big battles that will change the world with big consequences. Alias says, I wonder if part of the problem is that the Horns as a full team are a bit hard to write because of how few things are actually threats to them combined. I don't know if I agree with that. Like, as a team, there are threats to them, of course, but the threats are much larger than if they split.
Okay.
I think that's it. Is that it?
Yeah, I wanted to give my opinion because.
Go ahead. No, I'm saying from the like text stuff. Is that it? Did I miss anybody?
Yeah, I think. Okay, Donkey says it feels bad that the horns got split up, especially kiffaB being separated from the others, aside from Vofia. kiffaB and Vofia will make for a good arc, but kiffaB deserves to go back to Chandra too to be there with his teammates.
Okay,
Yeah.
and that is the end of the comments for this. Or we'll close.
I think it's just there's a lot of things that happen in a similar. That's not the way I want to say it. There's a lot of similar story beats at the end of this volume, but the way in which they happen, the agency that the characters sees is different. That I think felt different to me. Like similar things happen, the horns get split. But this volume, as people have pointed out, like they didn't just get shanghaied and taken to support Eren. They were like, we're going to go on this quest. We have a deadline. We are going to eat a bajillion pounds of pemmican and suffer because we need to be there. We're going to Shanghai the ship this time. And off we go to be with the innkeeper. Yes, they get split up, but even then it feels more like it's on their terms. And a lot of things with Eren felt that way as well. I think the next volume ending will probably be very different, but I think that some of the parallels, they feel intentional to me.
Okay.
Intentional?
And that rounds out our topic discussions. We're going to close out today's recording and say goodbye to everybody listening in. Please remember, we're always looking for more folks to host discussions. The topics don't have to be tied to a specific chapter. They don't even have to be the Wandering Inn related. We do like book discussions too. So come out, host some stuff. We'll help you out. Just more stuff like this. Thank you to everybody who came. We had 50 people, and wow, we're going to close out this discussion, the recording. Someone